everyone. My name is Jake, and today I will be talking about an article called Incident of the Week, coming from a website called Cybersecurity Hub. What is this website? Cybersecurity Hub is a site that collects data about breaches from ransomware all the way to data links. So basically any type of malware. It talks about a lot of things that we discussed in class. They analyze data from some of the biggest companies and their data breaches in the past 18 months. A few historical companies which we use and probably have heard of are Capital One, State Farm, Yahoo, and Dunkin' Donuts. These aren't all, but many of us can relate to these, as I use Capital One, State Farm, and Dunkin' Donuts. So, Capital One. This is one of the biggest breaches so far. About 1 million people affected in the U.S. and 6 million affected in Canada. This breach occurred basically because a Capital One determined that a hacker broke into a server by exploiting a configuration vulnerability in a web application firewall on March 22nd and 23rd, 2019. This breach actually happened for a few years, and Capital One was at fault for not hardening enough and doing whatever they can to implement a patch. The person accessed personal information from more than 100 million Capital One customers in the U.S. Alrighty, so another breach I'll be talking to you about today is State Farm. I figured I'd talk about State Farm since my name is Jake and everyone calls me Jake from State Farm. Unfortunately, State Farm suffered from a credential stuffing attack. State Farm observed login attempts to users' accounts that were similar of credential stuffing cyber attacks. The attack was discovered by State Farm in July 2019, but no personal identifiable information was exposed, such as Social Security, someone's birthday, or address. The number of policyholders impacted by the attack have not been disclosed by State Farm. But how can a company prevent itself from getting breached? A company has to follow simple security principles such as CIA in order to mitigate risk for a breach. There's no bulletproof way to fully stop a breach, but you can do things in your power to prevent them. In this case, State Farm should require multiple forms of authentication that take location and physical device assessed, and the user identity into consideration. Re-authenticate users based on elapsed time and or a change in these authentication parameters. So that way, if somebody tries to log in not in the office, they won't be able to. Also, State Farm should restrict or eliminate access to applications, services, and sensitive data that do not pass these tests. I enjoy a good coffee, so I go over to Dunkin' Donuts since it's a little bit cheaper than Starbucks. But, unfortunately, Dunkin' Donuts has had 2 issues with credential stuffing attacks, starting in 2018 and continuing in 2019. The hackers used credentials from other sites to enter the Dunkin' Donuts rewards program. So, if there is a data breach on another site and you use that same login for that site for your Dunkin' Donuts, a hacker could enter your Dunkin' Donuts account. The Dunkin' Donuts reward plan allows customers to earn rewards and get free stuff and merchandise. In exchange for this service, you give your first and last name, email, and username, and get a 16-digit account code. The hackers were after the account itself in order to sell on dark web forums. Ways to avoid reusing the same email and password combination for multiple online accounts and change your access credentials frequently is one of the top ways to prevent a credential stuffing attack to occur like this. If your Spartan ID is the same thing as your bank ID and one of those are breached, potentially the other account could get breached with this type of attack. Okay, so to wrap it up, I'm going to talk about one more breach, even though this article offers data on many breaches. So if you're interested in finding a breach that may impact you, look into the website. The last company I'll be talking about is Yahoo. It affected 111 million people. The company's cybersecurity issue lasted from 2012 to 2016. 4 years. 2 separate hackers broke into the Yahoo's online infrastructure without taking anything to just see if it was possible. The following year, cyber criminals behaved maliciously when they took records from all the Yahoo accounts, which totaled about 3 billion users. In that instance, the information seized by the hackers could have allowed them access to things like email accounts and calendars, pretty much whatever they wanted. The Yahoo data breach was in part as bad as it was because of pure security on their end, not implementing patches, not assessing any issues. 4 years is an absurd amount of time for such a big company. The hackers simply got into Yahoo's network from a phishing scheme. For a phishing scheme to work, only one employee needs to click and link to install malicious malware to infect the whole network.